Senate will be in order. The next amendment is amendment number 572, offered by the senator from the Cape and the Islands, the title of which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 572 by Mr. Cyr, Small Business Technical Assistance.
The senator from the Cape and the Islands, Mr. Cyr.
Through you to the members, I'm honored to join my colleagues from Pittsfield and Milton to join in addressing this chamber for the first time. They have set the bar very high, and just really honored to join with all of you in this unsettled and consequential time to speak in support of Amendment 572, Small Business Technical Assistance. The Mass Growth Capital Business Technical Assistance Program provides competitive grants to community-based organizations across the Commonwealth. These organizations, in turn, use the grants to support aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners that dream of sustaining their own livelihood by starting or growing their own enterprise. Small businesses supported through this program provide needed services and new local products, the kind of economic activity that revitalizes local business districts, creates jobs, and builds wealth in communities across Massachusetts. The Small Business Technical Assistance Program has served thousands of small businesses since it was first established by this body in FY 2007. It has been especially essential to jump-starting and sustaining successful minority and women-owned businesses in low and moderate-income communities across the Commonwealth. The reach of this program is quite impressive. In FY 16, when this line item was funded at $2 million, the program achieved the following: grants of 32 nonprofit organizations across the state, between $10,000 and $120,000, and mini-grants for professional services to 65 small businesses to help them in areas such as accounting, legal services, marketing, and technology, providing technical assistance and training to providers of 1,891 business clients. 1,056 new jobs were created, and 1,594 jobs were preserved, which is a 22% increase over the results from FY 2015. And 367 businesses received financing that totaled nearly $30 million, and 75% of businesses that were supported by these monies had achieved a positive outcome. Either they opened, they grew, they stabilized. That's quite an impressive track record. The assistance provided through this program is often the difference between success and failure. The assistance to write a viable business plan, obtain new customers, secure a storefront or processing facility, obtain financing, and otherwise navigate the many complexities of owning a small business. As you can see, this modest investment by the Commonwealth does an awful lot of good. I have a deep appreciation for the opportunities and challenges that small businesses across the Commonwealth, but especially those on Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket face, because I had a front row seat witnessing how small businesses come into being, quite literally. My parents opened their own small business, a restaurant on Cape Cod, in 1985 when they were 3 months pregnant with me. After working for 11 years in other people's establishments, they opened a hole-in-the-wall eatery in Truro Center with 20 seats and $7,000 that they had gotten loaned from family. And when I came along, they put me in a bassinet on the counter and hugged my toys from the clothespin that held order slips. Later came my sister, and the business grew to a bustling 200-seat restaurant. I admit, this makes for a rather saccharine story, but in the Lower Cape community where I grew up, it was nothing special. Growing up in Truro, a hamlet of 2,003 individuals, I took for granted how integral small businesses were to who we were and who we are and how we sustained ourselves 30 miles out in the Atlantic Ocean. It seemed that most everyone's families were involved in small business. If their families didn't own a business outright, then they worked in one. Unless you worked for the town, taught in the schools, or served on the police force, you relied on small business. In Truro Elementary School, it wasn't unusual if your parents were proprietors or entrepreneurs. The Cagwins started Royal Flush Plumbing. My friend's Beth's dad was a contractor who employed a crew of 12. One Sousa family operated the local garden center, Another Sousa clan plied the waters of Cape Cod Bay for lobster. The Johnsons lobstered too, and the Austins were among the first to grow oysters in Wellfleet's nascent shellfish industry. The Yinglings started an iconic pizza joint with cash savings. The Endiches owned a penny candy store on Commercial Street. The Severids and the Maluskis and the Evans owned inns. The Dunns and the Cyrs had restaurants. The Sparrows opened the first coffee shop that had an espresso bar and gourmet chocolate on the Cape. And the Althouse Bakers operated a kitschy and irreverent store that sold their fine art and poetry. Now, growing up in your family's small business isn't necessarily always easy. Teenage angst and demanding customers, especially on a slammed August night, can be a recipe for piquant family feuds. But we persevered. My sister and I worked and bickered in the family restaurant for 14 seasons, doing everything from cooking behind the line to waiting tables. I note with some pride that I will have to be elected to this body to up to 7 terms to surpass the time of service that I spent serving people on Cape Cod. And my family, like so many others, put our hearts fully into this family business together. It sustained us, it defined us, not solely paying the bills, but giving our lives purpose and agency. My generation's parents came to Outer Cape to build a life, and were able to do so through the opportunities of entrepreneurship and small business. Most had either grown up on the Cape or relocated from working-class enclaves in upstate New York, in Connecticut, in Southie, or from the Blackstone Valley. They sought how to eke out a living through hard work and creativity. Not everyone was successful, and each family enterprise had their own share of woes. But the barriers to getting in and launching your dreams could be scaled. Unfortunately, it's become harder and harder for those dreams of my parents' generation to be realized on Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. Mounting demands, an out-of-state real estate market, a limited workforce, corporate competition that focuses on the bottom line, not the community, the sheer cost of goods, mounting health care costs, a housing shortage, and so much else provide a pretty high bar to start off a small business, let alone succeed. A generation ago, you could build a life and make a good living in the trades, in hospitality industry, or in our fishery. Now, without some support, or unfortunately independent wealth, this is harder to do. That's why the Small Business Technical Assistance Program is so important to Cape Cod, to Nantucket, to Martha's Vineyard, and communities and neighborhoods all across the Commonwealth. I'll give you 3 examples. Jamie and Christian Sparrow came home to Cape Cod 5 years ago with a dream to open their own business that would serve up fresh local food, but also be a warm, engaging place for both their staff and for our Lower Cape community. Jamie had spent summers in the Lower Cape as a child and a young adult. She met Christian, a native Cape Codder like me, one summer. They headed off to the West Coast to start their careers in food and hospitality, but their families were here, the Cape was home, and they wanted to move back. When they did, they came with an ambitious plan. But when Jamie and Chris sought financing for what they hoped would become their new livelihood, they were very discouraged. Rejections from local banks due to the startup nature of their business in a very high-risk industry, 9 out of 10 restaurants fail in the first 5 years, landed them at the door of the Community Development Partnership, which receives funding through this amendment. A microloan paired with business counseling helped them open Sunbird Food Truck in Wellfleet in 2012. With a focused vision, strong staff, and certainly some tweaks along the way, they did launch their business, the same dream my parents had a generation ago. And it was such a success, they soon embarked on an additional adventure, Sunbird Kitchen, this time with a business partner and yet another small loan from this program to round out local bank financing. They opened their brick-and-mortar Orleans restaurant in 2015. In 4 years, Sunbird has grown from one seasonal food truck with a handful of seasonal employees to a full-fledged year-round restaurant shared by 3 partners, 13 year-round employees, and a faithful customer following. And did I mention, Sunbird is open year-round, which is a big deal on the Lower Cape. Native Cape Codders, Chris and Virginia Smith, had found their way to growing a successful business on the Lower Cape by doing it together. The business, full-service landscaping, started off as a side project for Chris, who had a horticultural degree. In 2008, he transitioned into a full-time business, Cape Cod Tree and Landscaping. Within a few years, it became clear more hands were needed for the day-to-day operations. Virginia, who was a teacher, left her job and decided to join her husband in the rapidly growing business. They incorporated in 2013, and their business grew via word of mouth, Virginia's efforts with online marketing, and Chris's networking skills. They had an upward trajectory, now employing 9 individuals. But with the rapid growth, challenges surfaced. The business faced constant repair and maintenance issues with equipment, particularly a work truck. The issues resulted in mounting expenses. In spring 2015, the Smiths approached the local Community Development Corporation about a microloan funded through this program. After presenting a compelling business plan, they were approved for a $25,000 loan to buy a newer dump truck. With 4-wheel drive, the new truck expanded their season, enabled them to plow in the winter and tackle tree repair as well. They said the loan bridged the gap for us to take our business to the next level, said Virginia. Our costs for equipment maintenance and repairs had become too burdensome. With a new truck, those burdens have been reduced. As they contemplate a future, the Smiths are quite optimistic about their business. And finally, Katie Murphy and Michael DeVasto wanted to take their small local business, Field Point Oyster Farm, to the next level. Again, with a sound business plan that focused on sustainable oyster cultivation, freshness, and quality, they were poised to grow. The only missing piece was financing. After working with staff, again funded by this program, to hone their financial projections, they applied for and received a microloan to finance the purchase of gear and inventory. According to Michael, quote, "We wouldn't have been able to grow the volume of oysters we're now growing without the gear we purchased as a result of a microloan made possible by the Small Business Technical Assistance Program. The injection has been integral to grow for us. The injection has been integral for us to grow our business." So I rise in support of this line item because the small businesses that these programs help are inextricably linked to the Cape and Islands District. And they also are very much core to who I am and to how I've come to serve in this historic and soon-to-be renovated chamber. Businesses like these carry the tradition of prior generations. They also help make us a community by providing us space to work, to commune, and to eat. We have a ways to go to restore opportunity and to ensure that those who have opportunity are not just based on their inherited wealth, whether or not you can be determined to be successful in entrepreneurship. And while this body charts a course for a more equitable Commonwealth, this amendment is something meaningful that will make a difference to small communities and left-behind neighborhoods in cities and towns all across the Commonwealth. Mr. President, I ask for a favorable adoption of this amendment. Thank you.
Amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Let's do the Senate will be in a brief recess.